Welcome back to the deep dive. You know how LMs can write incredibly human-like text?
Yeah.
Well, today, we're going to peek behind the curtain
Okay.
and explore what researchers are learning about how these LLMs actually work.
Right.
Think of it like this.
Okay.
We're going to take one research paper and do a deep dive
Yeah.
into the science behind how LLMs do what they do.
See, LLMs are built on these really complex architectures,
Uh-huh.
but the way they actually learn
Yeah.
and process information is still a bit of a puzzle.
It's almost like they have a secret language.
Yeah.
And we're trying to crack the code.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
This paper dives into something called mechanistic interpretability, which is essentially trying to understand
Yeah.
how these complex systems work at a very basic level.
Exactly. We're talking about looking at individual neurons,
Okay.
the connections between them,
Yeah.
and how they form what are called circuits
Mm-hmm.
to carry out specific functions.
Okay, I'm already intrigued. Now, the paper mentions that individual neurons within the LLM can be activated by lots of different things,
Yeah.
things that don't even seem related.
Yeah.
They call these polysemantic neurons. That seems pretty counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Think of it this way.
Okay.
A single neuron is like a multi-purpose tool in a toolbox.
Yeah.
It can be used for a variety of tasks,
Yeah.
depending on the context.
Okay.
This ability to respond to multiple things
Right.
might be what makes LLMs so adaptable
Mm-hmm.
and powerful.
So you're saying the complexity
Yeah.
is actually a feature, not a bug.
Exactly.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Are there any neurons that focus on just one thing?
There are.
Mm.
Researchers have discovered what are called monosemantic neurons.
Okay.
These neurons are associated with a single concept.
Mm.
Think of them as specialized tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
Great for specific jobs, but not as versatile.
So finding the right balance between these general purpose
Right,
and
right, sir.
specialized neurons is key for creating an LLM that can do it all.
Exactly. Researchers are working to understand that balance,
Okay.
how to create LLMs that are both powerful and interpretable.
Right.
And that leads us to circuits,
Okay.
which are groups of these neurons
Mm-hmm.
working together as a unit.
Like a team of neurons with a shared mission.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm picturing neurons wearing tiny hard hats
Uh-huh.
and collaborating on blueprints.
Okay.
Help me understand this better.
Yeah.
What do these circuits do?
Imagine a group of neurons working together
Okay.
to understand grammar.
Mm.
That's a circuit.
Okay.
Another circuit might be responsible for understanding logical relationships between words.
Okay.
It's like having different departments in a company,
Yeah.
each specialized in a particular area.
So we've got individual neurons,
Right.
some multi-purpose, some specialized.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have teams of neurons
Yeah.
working together in circuits.
Exactly.
This is getting complex.
Yeah, it is.
The paper specifically calls out induction heads.
Right.
What's so special about them?
Induction heads are a type of circuit
Okay.
that researchers think are really important for in-context learning.
Okay.
That's the ability of LLMs to learn from the information you give them on the fly
Mm-hmm.
without needing specific training on that exact task.
So induction heads are like the LLM's on-the-job training program.
Yes, exactly.
That's a game changer.
Right.
Imagine asking your LLM to write a poem in the style of Shakespeare,
Yeah.
and it actually learns how to do it just from your prompt.
Yeah.
That's the power of these induction heads.
Exactly.
This is starting to feel like science fiction.
It is pretty amazing.
But what about attention heads?
Yeah.
What are they all about?
Think of attention heads as the spotlight of the LLM.
Okay.
They decide which parts of the text you feed into the model are the most important.
Right.
They help the LLM focus on the right words and phrases
Mm-hmm.
to understand the meaning and context.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. Okay.
We've got these incredible neurons
Yeah.
working in circuits
Uh-huh.
with attention heads, helping them focus on the right information.
Right.
But where does the actual knowledge come from?
Yeah, that's a good question.
How is it stored within the LLM?
Great question. Researchers are working to figure out
Oh.
exactly what kind of knowledge is stored in LLMs
All right.
and how it gets there.
So we've cracked the code
Yeah.
of how LLMs process information.
Well, sort of.
Now we just need to figure out what they actually know
Yeah.
and how they learn it.
Right.
This is truly a deep dive.
Yeah, it is.
Tell me more about what the researchers are discovering.
One of the big things they're finding
Okay.
is that LLMs store different types of knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
like world knowledge
Okay.
and factual knowledge.
Hold on. World knowledge.
Yes.
So my LLM might have some idea of how gravity works,
Yeah.
or the concept of democracy, not just the dictionary definitions of those terms.
Precisely.
And then you have factual knowledge,
Okay.
which is like a vast database of facts
Yeah.
the LLM has learned
Yeah.
from the massive amounts of data it's been trained on.
It's like having the entire internet stored in its brain.
Right.
And it can actually access and use that information to answer our questions or even generate creative text formats.
Yeah.
I need to know more.
Okay.
How are researchers figuring out what's actually in there?
They're using a technique called probing.
Okay.
Basically, they design specific inputs to test the LLM's knowledge. It's like giving it a pop quiz.
So they might ask the LLM a question about spatial relationships
Yeah.
or a historical fact,
Right.
and then analyze its response to see how it represents that information internally.
That's exactly it. And this is where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
I always hear that bigger LLMs are better.
Right.
Well, it turns out that might not be the whole story.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
So size doesn't always matter.
Maybe not.
Tell me more.
Research suggests that the middle layers of the LLM
Okay.
might be where most of the knowledge is stored, regardless of the overall size.
Interesting.
It's like finding out that the most valuable books in a library are shelved somewhere in the middle,
Right.
regardless of how many books the library actually has.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So the next time someone brags about their supersized LLM, we can tell them it's not just about size,
Right.
but also about how that knowledge is organized and accessed.
Exactly.
But what does this tell us about how LLMs learn?
That is the question, isn't it?
Do we even know?
That's a great question, and it's something researchers are actively exploring.
Okay.
Understanding how LLMs learn will be key to improving their performance
Yeah.
and creating even more powerful and versatile AI systems.
Right.
But that's a discussion for another time.
Right. We've got a lot more ground to cover. Stick with us
Okay.
as we continue to unravel the mysteries of LLMs, exploring how they generalize, how we can control them,
Right.
and what the future holds for this incredible technology.
All right. Sounds good.
We just talked about how researchers are mapping out what LLMs know
Right.
and how that knowledge is organized.
Yeah.
Now we're moving into the realm of control.
Okay.
How can we actually make these powerful systems behave the way we want them to?
Well, it's a bit like teaching a dog new tricks.
Okay.
Only these are incredibly complex digital dogs.
Right.
One of the exciting areas of research is something called model editing.
Okay.
It's all about tweaking the LLM,
Mm-hmm.
making subtle changes to its behavior
Yeah.
without having to retrain the entire system.
Okay, that sounds amazing.
Right.
But also a little scary. We can actually edit the brain of an LLM.
Yeah.
Is that even possible?
Researchers have made some pretty impressive strides.
Okay.
For example, they've figured out how to alter factual associations within an LLM by adjusting specific neurons. Imagine being able to correct outdated information,
Yeah.
or even teach an LLM something new without having to start from scratch.
So it's like performing brain surgery on an AI,
Kind of.
but instead of a scalpel, we're using algorithms and data.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there any downsides to this?
Well,
What if we accidentally mess things up?
it's not without its challenges.
Okay.
One of the biggest concerns
Yeah.
is the risk of unintended consequences.
Right.
You might tweak one part of the model
Mm-hmm.
and inadvertently change something else.
Okay.
It's like trying to fix a leaky faucet
Uh-huh.
and accidentally causing a burst pipe
Right.
somewhere else.
So it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
We want to harness the power of model editing
Right.
to improve LLMs, but we also need to be incredibly careful
Yeah.
and understand the potential risks involved.
Exactly.
How do researchers even begin to test these edits
Right.
and make sure they're not doing more harm than good?
It's all about rigorous testing and evaluation. Before deploying any edited model, researchers run it through a battery of tests to make sure it's still performing as expected
Right.
and that it hasn't developed any new quirks or biases.
Okay.
It's like taking your car for a test drive after a tune-up
Yeah.
to make sure everything is running smoothly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about editing,
Right.
it's about editing responsibly.
Exactly.
This is really cutting edge stuff.
It is.
I imagine there is still a lot of unknowns when it comes to model editing.
Yeah.
What are some of the big questions that researchers are trying to answer?
One of the biggest challenges is understanding how these changes ripple through the entire system.
Mm-hmm.
We make a tweak here.
Right.
And how does that affect the overall behavior?
Yeah.
It's like a complex ecosystem
Uh-huh.
where every element is interconnected.
Right.
Figuring out those connections is key to making precise and predictable edits.
So it's a bit like playing a game of high-stakes chess, where each move can have far-reaching consequences.
Right.
We've talked a lot about model editing. What about pruning?
Yeah.
Earlier you mentioned it could make LLMs more efficient.
Right.
I'm all for efficiency.
Okay.
Tell me more about that.
Pruning is essentially about slimming down an LLM without sacrificing its performance. It's like decluttering your house. You get rid of things you don't need, freeing up space, and making it easier to find what you're looking for. In this case, we're removing unnecessary parts of the model, making it smaller and faster.
I like the idea of a more streamlined LLM.
Yeah.
But how does this actually work?
Wow.
Are researchers just randomly deleting parts of the model and hoping for the best?
Not at all. There are sophisticated algorithms that analyze the LLM and identify components that don't significantly contribute to its overall performance. It's like identifying the weak links in a chain and removing them to make the chain stronger.
So we're not just talking about making LLMs smaller and faster. We're also potentially making them more robust and reliable.
Exactly.
Sign me up for that. What are some of the potential benefits of pruning?
Well, smaller models require less computing power, which makes them more accessible and sustainable. They can also run faster, which is crucial for real-time applications, like chatbots or translation services.
This all sounds very promising.
Yes.
It seems like we're making incredible progress in understanding how LLMs work and how to make them even more efficient and powerful.
Exactly.
But what about the unexpected? Are there any surprises that researchers are uncovering?
One of the most fascinating areas of research is the study of emergent properties in LLMs.
Hold on, emergent properties.
Yes.
Are you saying that LLMs are developing new skills all on their own?
It seems that way.
That's both exciting and a little unnerving.
It is.
Give me an example.
One example is the ability of some LLMs to do basic arithmetic. Even though they weren't specifically trained on math problems.
Really?
It's like they're figuring out mathematical concepts just by processing vast amounts of language data.
That's wild. It's like they're developing a rudimentary understanding of math just by reading books.
Right.
What other kinds of emergent properties are researchers discovering?
It's still early days. But some LLMs are showing hints of creativity.
Interesting.
They're able to generate novel ideas, write stories, even compose music.
Wow.
It's like they're tapping into some underlying creative potential that we're only beginning to understand.
This is blowing my mind.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
As we create these increasingly complex LLMs, are we going to see even more of these emergent properties?
That's a good question.
What are the implications of that?
Yeah.
It's almost like we're creating a new form of intelligence. One that we don't fully comprehend.
That's a question that researchers and philosophers are grappling with.
Yeah.
As LLMs continue to evolve, we need to be prepared for the unexpected. We need to be thoughtful about how we design and deploy these systems. And we need to have open and honest conversations about the ethical implications.
It's like we're embarking on a grand experiment. But we're not entirely sure where it's going to lead.
Exactly.
The potential is enormous. But we need to proceed with caution and a deep sense of responsibility. We can't just focus on the what of LLM research. We also need to consider the why and the how.
I agree.
But before we get too deep into the philosophical implications, let's talk about some of the recent breakthroughs in our understanding of how LLMs learn. Remember grokking?
Yeah.
That sudden leap in performance we talked about earlier? Turns out there's more to the story. We were just talking about grokking and how LLMs sometimes make these sudden leaps in performance. It's like they have a light bulb moment and suddenly everything clicks into place. But you're saying researchers are finding it might be more than just a sudden aha moment.
That's right. Researchers are starting to think grokking is more of a journey than a sudden destination.
So more like steps along the way.
Exactly. It's like the LLM is slowly piecing together a puzzle. Refining its understanding over time until it finally sees the whole picture.
So instead of just memorizing facts and figures,
Right.
it's starting to see the connections between them,
Yeah.
building a deeper and more abstract understanding
Right.
of the information it's processed.
Exactly. And this gradual shift
Okay.
in how the LLM represents knowledge
Mm-hmm.
is what leads to the dramatic improvement in performance
Yeah.
that we call grokking.
So it's not just about the quantity of data an LLM is trained on,
Right.
but also the quality of its understanding.
It's exactly.
It's like the difference between reading a textbook
Uh-huh.
and actually applying that knowledge in the real world.
Yeah. A good analogy.
This is all pretty mind-blowing.
It is.
But where do we go from here?
Well,
What are some of the big questions that researchers are still trying to answer about LLMs?
one of the most exciting areas of research
Okay.
is the development of multimodal LLMs.
Multimodal LLMs.
Yes, these are LLMs that can process and generate not just text,
Okay.
but also images, sounds, and even videos.
Wow.
Imagine an LLM that can write you a poem,
Uh-huh.
compose the music to go with it,
Okay.
and even create an animated video for the whole experience.
That's incredible.
It is pretty amazing.
It's like we're blurring the lines between different forms of media,
Yeah.
creating a whole new world of creative possibilities.
Right.
What are some of the potential applications of these multimodal LLMs?
The possibilities are endless.
Such as
In healthcare, they could analyze medical images and patient data.
to provide more accurate diagnoses.
Interesting.
In education, they could create interactive learning experiences
Mm-hmm.
that adapt to each student's individual needs.
And in entertainment.
Just imagine the kinds of immersive and interactive experiences they could create.
It's like we're stepping into the world of science fiction.
Yeah.
But it's actually happening right now.
It is.
But with all these advancements come new challenges, right?
Yes.
We can't just focus on the cool factor.
Right.
We also need to consider the potential downsides.
Absolutely. As these systems become more powerful and pervasive,
Uh-huh.
we need to be thoughtful about how we design them,
Mm-hmm.
how we use them,
Right.
and how we ensure that they benefit all of humanity.
But it's not just about making LLMs smarter.
Yeah.
It's about making them better, more aligned with our values, and more beneficial to society as a whole.
Exactly.
It's a huge responsibility.
It is, and it's a responsibility that we all share.
Right.
Researchers, developers, policymakers, and the public
Mm.
all need to be part of the conversation
Yeah.
about how we shape the future of AI.
Well said. This has been an incredible journey,
It has.
exploring the inner workings of LLMs, the breakthroughs, the challenges, and the potential.
Yeah,
It's clear that we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with this technology.
I agree.
It's an exciting time to be working in this field.
It is.
And who knows what incredible discoveries await us just around the corner.
Right.
Thank you for taking us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
And to you, dear listener, we hope this episode has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to learn more about the amazing world of LLMs. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.